And now on Chatterbox UK, we're just so lucky to have Ray from Mungo Jerry. How are you, sir? Welcome.
Hello, Ray.
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I've just had a bit of medical stuff sorting me out after all these years. I just had a bit of open heart surgery, so I'm chilling and relaxing, but I'm still trying to finish my new album. And I mean, you said Ray from Mungo Jerry. Actually, I am Mungo Jerry. After I became Mungo Jerry in 1972, the band. The group of musicians I had were, that recorded in the summertime. It was a band then. That was 4 of us, and you know, we went travelling around. You know, complete by surprise. The record just took off, and it just went crazy all around the world in the summertime, and it like just went berserk. But by the time the end of 1972. No, the end of 1971 came around, and we started getting a bit of disruption within the group. But we'd already, unfortunately, dispensed of Michael Cole, who played the double bass on the first album. And I'm really friends with him. He even came to my wedding. But unfortunately, he went. A couple of the guys, Colin Earl, that played the piano, and Paul King, that played the banjo, they wanted to take over the name Mungo Jerry and have another singer. So I got fired.
Okay.
But the management and the agency and everyone said, well, what if you go to a gig and the promoter says, where's Mungo? Because I was a front man, and I wrote all the songs, and I used to do all the talking, and you know, and so they came along and said, you know, I'm Mungo. I bought your record. You know, you have to buy me a drink and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I started being called Mungo Jerry. So I adopted the name then.
Cool.
And
good.
so that was it. But it was quite good for me, really, because round about that time, the lineup, I was playing a lot of junk band, skiffle, rockabilly, and songs that I'd written in that particular vein. And but there was all sorts of other genres of music that I like to explore, like a bit of speed, bit of funk, and like heavy rock and that kind of stuff. So I was sort of psychedelic blues rock stuff. I used to be playing all those clubs in when it started, 66, 67, 68, and it was a great, interesting time. So I used to play parties, clubs, wedding, anything, and it was a hobby for me, because I never set out to become a full-time member of the music business. I used to write songs and play gigs for my own personal amusement as a hobby. Electronics, yeah.
Sure. Now Mungo Jerry, I think, had a unique sound. I'm just wondering here, Ray. Mungo. I'm just wondering, what actually inspired you musically when you were growing up? I mean, was there any influences from parents, or was there anyone in the 60s that influenced you? Because you do have a unique sound. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, you know, from when I was very small, my mother and my aunt and my granny, sometimes they used to take me and my cousins to the cinema. And often it would be kind of musicals in those days, like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers and all this kind of stuff. Sure. And I really got off on that kind of music, that show band, that show type music. And when we went on holiday, we'd often go for a sing-song. We used to go on holiday in Hayden Island. We used to go to a place called the Nab Club, and there was always sort of evening entertainment, and there would be like campfire songs, novelty songs, like I put my finger in the woodpecker's hole, and the woodpecker said, "God bless my soul," you know, all this kind of
Wonderful.
And I liked all that, you know. I like novelty songs, and I like all that party kind of stuff, and Fred Astaire doing his tap dancing. I liked all that rhythm. You know, I think I wanted to be a drummer. I used to bang on saucepans and bits of wood or the side of the chairs and stuff. But we only lived in a little house, so there's no way that I was going to get a drum kit. And we had a piano in our house. It was a Barnes upright piano. My mother played the piano. My dad used to play a bit of piano, and he used to sing and make up tunes. My mother did this when she was younger, sang, you know, like in pubs and stuff. And
musical home,
play around. You know, so when I was about 5 years old, we go to football dance. One of my uncles, a great uncle, he was the manager of the local football team. They used to every year had a football dance on, and a band would play. And I remember when I was 5, I got up on stage and sang, "I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts." So,
love it, Ray. Thank you. I didn't expect that. That's brilliant. Well done. Hello.
Yeah. I'm still here.
I love that story, Ray. Brilliant. Carry on, mate.
Yeah, well, that was me when I was very young, and then there was a song called "I Want to Say Hello." I want to say hello. I want to see you smile. I want to hold you in my arms again. And I started singing that when I was about 7, and it like everything that had a bit of a rhythm or a groove to it, I was into. And we had this big brown radio in the house, and like typewriter keys on it, big keys, and my dad was always pressing these buttons and trying to tune into stations, like Radio Luxembourg, foreign stations, get a bit of jazz on the radio, like Nat Canella and that kind of stuff. And to come home from school lunchtime, my mother used to have it on, and there'd be workers' playtime was on there, and there's the guest people, and often there'd be a singer, and they'd sing covers of whatever it was that was going, say Dickie Valentine or something like this. One lunchtime I came home, and we had the radio going, and all of a sudden it burst into flames.
Oh.
And my mum she threw it outside on the back door, and poured a saucepan of water over it. So that was the end of that brown radio. Then we got another radio. It was made out of Bakelite cream.
Okay.
We could get more stations on it. So great, got tuned in better to Radio Luxembourg, and that was the time when Radio Luxembourg used to have like the Ovaltine show.
Sure. Okay.
And they would play record. They'd only play a short section of the record because that would mean they paid less performance money, and they could play more different tunes. And so I was always getting off on the rhythm stuff. And then when the skiffle boom took off, like with Ronnie Donegan and the Vipers and this, and it was like a DIY invitation for us kids to start playing a bit more music. Nice. So we discovered the comb and paper, which later became like the kazoo sound. And it was like washboards and get an old T-chest and make a T-chest bass. And I got my first proper guitar, when I was 10. That was Christmas. I was 11 in the March. Because my birthday's on the 21st of March. So by the time it came round to my birthday, I'd learned a few chords and seen this program on TV. I think it was Burt Whedon, and realised what you do with the chords. So you can play nearly all those rock and roll songs and those skiffle songs. You only needed to know about 3 chords. So I got into all this strumming. But when I first picked up the guitar, I had it round the wrong way because I seemed to be ambidextrous. Okay. So I had it I didn't know that you could get left-handed guitars. So I had turned the guitar around the other way, the way that you're supposed to play. And I think that's why I got this strange style of playing, strange rhythm style, which if I play the drums now, I play the drums left-handed or part left-handed and part right-handed. I always managed to create a groove, and because I was singing, my mother used to say that I sounded like a foghorn, which I probably did, and I never actually found my voice. It was like, say, if it was Buddy Holly, I want to make sing like Buddy Holly. If it was Elvis Presley, you want to make it sound like Elvis Presley. Bill Haley's band was a great groove, a great rhythm, but we just used to. If I was singing, I'd try and sing in the style of the person whose record I was trying to emulate, and but it was always things that had a good groove to it, like Fats Domino, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, all that kind of stuff. So then I didn't know that the rock and roll had come from, say, New Orleans jazz, traditional jazz, and going back further back to country, rockabilly, Hank Williams. It all kind of came together from maybe rural blues. Okay. And years later, I discovered Lead Belly and Woody Guthrie, and because Bob Dylan obviously was inspired by Woody Guthrie,
Absolutely,
the sounding voice. So what I'm trying to say, I know you asked me this question, where does it all come from? But because I didn't have any barriers as to what genre of music that I would listen to, it was a question of either I liked it or I didn't. And it didn't matter if it was a ballad, if it was like, it could be Frank Sinatra, it could be Dean Martin, it could have been, it could have been Tommy Steele. But it was just a question of if I got off on it. So to me, there's no good music and there's no bad music.
Sure.
You either like it or you don't. And if you're recording, if it sounds right, it is right.
Yeah.
People today get a bit too hung up on how things should be done everything should be done in a technically perfect way, but that doesn't necessarily get off or engage with the general public. Because if you play a track to a young kid, they won't know the difference how it was recorded, where it was recorded, who the producer was, anything like that. And if it's got a nice groove, nice atmosphere, then they'll nod their head to it and they'll start dancing and start singing. So something for the family. So I found myself, it was a question of communication. When I was playing it, if I did a gig like in my early band, and it was for a wedding or a 21st birthday party, these people want to be entertained, so they want songs that they can sit onto or they can dance to. So it wasn't a question of playing 50 notes a second on a guitar to show off your technical capabilities and be flash to other musicians. So I never got off onto that. Sure. But later on I started digging deep when the psychedelic music boom came out and everyone was looking for meaning, it's far out, man, and all this. And I was into that, and I liked the hippie ethos of love and peace and being friendly to everyone. So that's why I got a song called I'll be a hippie till I die.
Yeah.
But I spell hippie HIPPI, so I can change the I to an A. So it means make it like not I, E. I make it with a Y, so I can change the I to an A. So make it happy, and that's it. And that's like, so we go back to in the summertime, as you say, where it came from. So that song is like an amalgam of lots of stuff that I heard and grew up with, like Edmundo Ross, for example, that played this kind of Latin music, which is, so in the summertime, it's got a touch of Latin, and it's got a touch of calypso, it's got a touch of jug band, it's got a touch of skiffle, it's got a touch of everything, and there's no drums on the record. I played all the percussion and did all the stuff on it.
Well, absolutely unique sound.
It sounds fresh. It sounds as fresh today as it did then. I think it's probably because of the unusual instrumentation, and it's got across like 4 generations now. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, of course, absolutely. Now, I'm reading here, but I'll let you say the inspiration for the group's name. Tell us about that, please, Ray.
The name of the name of the band. It was picked out of a hat, to be quite honest. There were all these. The band was actually, as a band, it was called The Good Earth. Okay. Which comes from a name of a book by Pearl Buck. And the Good Earth was initially like a rock and roll kind of a band. But the bass player left and we sacked the drummer. And I had a gig to do, Oxford University, Christmas Ball. And there was 3 of us, just me, Colin Earl and Joe Rush, my workmate, he played double bass. And we thought, we'll get this money, because it was £30, that meant we got £10 each. And we went to the gig at Oxford
good money
University
then.
In a van that Joe Rush had bought for £3. And we took a sidekick with us, this Fred Askew, who's like a, I won't say court jester, but he kept us laughing. And we went and played this gig, and it was the Keith Hartley's launch of a band with a new singer. I don't know if you ever heard of Keith Hartley. He was drummer with John Mayall's blues band, Blues Breakers. And there was Mick Farron. I don't know if you heard of Mick Farron and the Deviants. Mick Farron used to write for the International Times. He was like an underground kind of writer in this like counterculture era. He later became a science fiction writer, and he passed away about 7 or 8 years ago in the United States. But there were names on, and so we went on to open the show, and the students loved us, and they were all dancing around and asked us to go on again. when everything was packed up, so they had to turn the power off at 3:45 in the morning. And I was making up songs. I made up this song called Maggie, which is on the first Mungo Jerry album. I think I played it about 6 times that night, which ran out of material. And it was just the three of us, and it was like I was stamping on the floor because we didn't have any drums like Johnny Hooker did, and it was like Colin played this piano that he put drawing pins in the hammers, so it gave it a jangly sound. It was just a great sound, a great groove, and we had these big speaker cabinets that it sounded like we were playing through a massive 78 RP, the old 78 gramophones.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, hey, this is maybe this is it. We don't need to have a drummer, don't need to have a rock band.
Mm-hmm.
And we built up playing that was the kind of music we're playing, like Lead Belly, Woody Guthrie, a bit of rockabilly.
I adore those two anyway. I really do. Really do.
So it was quite an experience, quite a time actually. So I don't forget what question you asked me because I'm rambling on. Do you tell me to shut up? Because
no, please carry on. I just wish this was live. No, it's how you got the groups, how you got to Mungo Jerry.
Yeah. So anyway, we were called the Good Earth. That was it. So when we finally got to make a recording, the management and the record company and that said, "Oh, we got to have a different name," and they wanted to call us the Amazing Shark, or the Incredible Shark, and we didn't like that name.
No.
And the time was running out, and the guy said, "Right, we're going to put some names in a hat, and whatever names come out, that's the name of the band."
Okay.
And somebody, I don't know who it was that pulled the names out, but someone pulled out Mungo and Jerry, and Mungo Jerry, and it kind of sounded right when we found out that Mungo Jerry was the name of a cat in T.S. Eliot's book, Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats.
It's true, it is.
Mungo Jerry, it's all one word in the book, and the Jerry part is Jerrie. And obviously we got this, like the Jerry written as like Tom and Jerry, like, the cartoon characters. Yeah. And but it's like Jethro Tull, people thought it was the name of a person. And when in fact it was just like the name of the collective members of the people that made the recordings. But as I said earlier on, it ended up with me being called Mungo Jerry, the actual person. Ray Dorset, I'm Ray Dorset, aka Mungo Jerry. Ray Dorset, the songwriter, and Mungo Jerry, the artist performer. But so that's the story behind the name, and it's kind of stuck there.
Perfect, absolutely perfect. Now, I believe you were the guy behind starting the group initially. You said about the Oxford University thing, the Christmas Bash. Now, I take it the actual group that I knew initially as Mungo Jerry, you were the actual guy that got it all together, workmates and so on, yeah?
Yeah, because see, when I got my first guitar, we got a little skiffle group together at school, and we played at my aunt's garden party, and then later on, I went to another school and met some guys there, and we went to we went to ballroom dancing classes, right, in Witton, in Britain, in Middlesex, and met some other guy because they played rock and roll in the break. So I was always shy. It was always scary to ask a girl to dance, especially when you're learning. So you didn't want to be told no. And I looked so funny with my funny hair, and as I was, and but apparently, people thought that then I looked like Paul Anka.
Okay.
And then later on it was when I was a lot older. People thought I got recognised, and people thought I was Tom Jones. Would you believe? Okay. And I remember going in I'm deviating a bit now, but I remember going to a laundrette in Bracknell, and this woman came up, screaming, "Tom Jones is off!" What would Tom Jones be doing in a laundrette in Bracknell? This was just after it ain't unusual.
He'd be in one in Swansea, of course.
Yeah, but before that, my cousins and they used to think I looked like Frankie Vaughan,
Okay.
But
Sorry.
then what I was saying is I had bands. So when I was different, we started up a band and then someone else would drop in. But then I got this band together. There was me from the guys we met at the dancing school. So it was me, and there was a guy called Derek Sermon. They called Degs, right, on drums. Dick Howe on guitar. And later on, a guy came along, his name's Dave Hutchins on bass. And when there were just the three of us, without Dave on bass, we went to play at another dancing school in Ashford, on the Felton Road, called Jimmy Denton's Dance School. And we said we just wanted to play there for nothing. And Dave Hutchins came along, and we went down absolute storm. And the guy was so pleased because live band, and the place was packed out. Then no one had heard of us, and we've called ourselves the Buccaneers, and we got ourselves patches because you remember. I don't know if you remember Johnny Kidd and the Pirates.
Yeah, so he died before, but I'm aware of him, of course. Yes.
So we put a black patch over our eyes, and we had. And we went there and played as the Buccaneers, and then when Dave joined the band, and he got a black patch. But later on, we got a manager, and they thought it was a silly idea. It was a bit weird, actually, being on stage singing only one eye. But and Deggs, the drummer, he was a brilliant, absolutely natural drummer. He went on to play with Screaming Lord Sutch.
Cool, very cool.
With Richie Blackmore playing on the guitar and stuff. And I was talking to him a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, we got a lot of... I drive you mad because I can tell you so many stories and people in and out of the band I went with. But basically, whatever band it was, it all revolved around me because I was the guy that decided what was going to be played.
That's cool.
I chose the songs, but I didn't play lead guitar then. I played mostly rhythm guitar because I'd learned to play rhythm guitar to accompany my vocal. So I had a very rhythmic and percussive guitar style. Because if you're alone, you want to try and make things sound as rhythmic and as lively as possible. And that's what I tended to do. So, then obviously guitar instrumental music came out and got really popular with it, like the Shadows and the Ventures. So Dick used to play all the solos and I used to play the rhythm to that, and we did our Shadows Walk.
Oh, yes, okay, yeah, I've got you.
But if it wasn't for those days, even a bit like Eric Clapton and Peter Green, I did an album. Peter Green came to my studio. We did an album there, and we used to talk about all this kind of stuff. And you got to admit that I know when the Beatles made their name and became really famous, that kind of guitar sound went out of the window. It wasn't popular anymore. People didn't have all that echo on the guitars, the sound, but it came back into the fore. Now people admit that they were inspired by like Hank Marvin and the Shadows and the guys from the Ventures and the other guitar bands. But then again, if you took and you listen to like Bruce Welch, he wrote this really good book, Rock and Roll, I Gave You the Best Music Is My Life, and he talks about the skiffle. And John Lennon always used to about skiffle, and there was, I think the Beatles mixed up with the skiffle group, like the Quarrymen.
Yes, they did.
So
we're interviewing Rod next week, actually, for the Quarrymen, you know.
Oh, right.
Yeah, how about that? Carry on.
So when you go back in time, it all seems to go right back to this, what you would call rural blues, jug band, skiffle, basic, that kind of music. It's homegrown stuff. Yeah. But I could tell you history about all that kind of spasm music and jug bands and that, but it would take too long, and I'd take up all your time, and I'd just drive you mad.
We do it as a series. Ray, and I'm being quite not attempting to be rude on this question, because I also sported a great set of sideburns at one point. So when did the sideburns arrive? With Mungo Jerry or beforehand?
No, it was beforehand. Well beforehand.
Wow.
I think. See, I got this really curly, frizzy hair, right? And I by the time I was 15, I went there when I was about 13, 14, there was an examination that you took in those days called the 13 plus.
Uh-huh.
And I ended up going to a school in Southall. I lived in Ashford in Middlesex. So I used to go to school, so I used to take about an hour to get to school. And the school was very, very strict. And if you got seen without your school uniform on, without the cap on, like within a 3-mile radius of the school, you'd get a detention. And when I went in to take my mock O-levels, you know O-levels?
Yes. Oh, I ended up taking O-levels, yeah.
I decided to wear some really leery clothes that I bought. My uncle, one of my uncles, had won some money on the football pools, and he gave me some money, and I went out and bought these really like winkle pickers shoes and Italian shirt and a funny hat with a feather in it, like Roscoe Raw on 77 Sunset Strip. And I wore this to school to do my O-levels, and I got a few other guys didn't wear the school uniform that day. I got called up to the headmaster, and the headmaster pulled me out and he said, "You're a spiv, you're never going to get anywhere. I advise you to leave." So I left, and that was on the Friday, you see. So, and I looked at the Middlesex Chronicle, local newspaper, and there was an advertisement for a ladies' hairdressing apprentice wanted, John French of Egham. So I went there, did the interview, and I got the job. So their day off was Monday, and so I started on the Tuesday. But my best friend, he said that the headmaster was only doing this to scare me and I should go back to school.
Okay.
But I didn't. And I knew that, like my mother getting her hair done and stuff, that the guy that owned the hairdressers had made a lot of money. So I thought it was a way to make money. But I was already playing in bands then. But my hobby was actually even building radios. And messing around with like electrical things, trying to make amplifiers and finding out how electric guitars work and stuff. And I used to do gigs by then, Fridays, Saturdays, and one night I had this gig on one Friday night, which was Fridays were the late night, was supposed to finish at 8 o'clock, and I had this gig, a private party for the Queen's surgeon in Gerrard's Cross. Chalfont and St Giles, somewhere around that area. And I told my boss that I wanted to leave early, and he got really nasty and said no, I couldn't go. So I just went off, and I never went back. And I lost my parents were a bit mad because they had to pay a deposit, a debenture. So because I'd signed a contract, that was gone. But I got the Middlesex Chronicle again, and I saw another advertisement for an apprenticeship, electromechanical engineering apprenticeship. So I went for the interview there, and I got the job there. So I went back to college, Twickenham Tech, and started, got back to the mechanical stuff. Why am I telling you all this? I can't remember now.
Oh, you carry on. Oh, we were just getting to the sideburns.
Yeah, about the sideburns, yeah. So, anyway, well, I won't go through the other jobs, but I ended up at Timex, and I used to be a bit late going in. I used to go early. I used to start a bit earlier, and I used to go in to have a shave at work, because I was what you call to be on the staff. But a lot of people on the staff started at 9 o'clock, but my time was 8:30. Whereas if you worked in the factory, because I worked in the research laboratory, but so where I went, no one could see me. I used to have a mirror there, and I used to have a shave. And I had half an hour to have a shave. But as the time ran out, I started shaving less of my face, so the sideburns started growing bigger and bigger.
Wow, okay.
And I've been to see Eric Clapton in the Cream, and he'd grown his sideburns quite long, and mine just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and my hair got longer, and obviously Jimi Hendrix came out, and before I knew it, I got these massive sideburns.
They were cool.
I didn't think, right, I'm going to grow these big sideburns. It just was a bit easier for me to spend less time shaving, because I hate shaving. But I've got I chopped the sideburns off
I noticed you had.
A few weeks ago, but when I came out of hospital. Yeah. So my hair's a bit shorter now as well.
But it saves
me a fortune. I've still got all my hair, and I had all my sideburns, but it wasn't that was all the hair's natural, but the colour wasn't. So
oh, well, I know about that.
I should have invested in the company that made the men's hair colour.
Yeah, but they were your trademark, and they didn't do you any harm for decades, did they? Really?
No, they
you
got,
know?
I think they even got. I think around about 73, 74, they got even bigger.
Wow,
and the hair got bigger.
Cool.
I didn't realise how big it got actually. It's quite outrageous.
You know, I loved it, and I did end up with a really decent pair of sideburns. You would have approved. Trust me, you would have approved.
The sideburns suit your face.
There was a poll. Do you remember the Melody Maker?
I do.
There was a poll in that once, and people voted in for the biggest sideburns, and I was number one.
I should hope so too. Right, Ray, In the Summertime obviously got released, and I believe...
My favourite song.
There you go, Sue's favourite song. Now, I believe and that was your first release, not just your first hit. That was your first release, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, well...
It's cool.
When the band was called The Good Earth... Mm-hmm. We'd gone to an audition and got this job to record an album, to write all the songs for a company called Saga Records. Mm-hmm. And they'd put out a record called Soft Rock and All That by a band called Catch-22. Okay. They decided they wanted to make an album called Hard Rock and All That. And we did this audition for, I don't remember, a DJ named John Edward.
No, I don't know.
He's the guy that created... what are they called? Renee and Renata.
Oh, well, okay. Got the number one, though. Don't laugh. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, he was behind them. And he also had a children's TV character, puppet thing. I can't remember what it's called, actually, offhand. And we did this audition for him, and because he got the job of supplying a band to make this record. So I did actually do a recording at this studio. The mixing desk was running on batteries. If you played loud, it used to distort. And I had a lot of songs, and they unfaded the fade outs, and ended up making like 1.5 albums. So I did do a recording there, and then we, as a backing group, we backed a girl called Loris McLennan for an A-side and a B-side, with the brass section. But yeah, the actual like record is like me, as it was as a band. That was Pi Records, and it was they come up with this idea to put out a 7-inch single, 7-inch vinyl, but instead of it playing at 45 RPM, like a normal record, or like an EP, it played at 33 1/3 RPM, which would be the same speed as an album. Yeah. So you could get 16 minutes of music on there. So they called it a maxi single. So In the Summertime came out with like the first maxi single, and it had 2 songs on one side, which was In the Summertime and Mighty Man. And a Rudy Guthrie song on the other side, which was a very long version, called Dutch Pneumonia Blues. But what happened was, I think the only other country in the world that released it as a maxi single was Poland. Okay. And all the other countries, they put Mighty Man on the flip side. And Mighty Man became a hit all over the world as well, and it was in lots of charts, German chart, French chart, all that sort of thing. And the funny thing was, when I went to America in because the record was released on the 22nd of May 1970, and we played the Hollywood Festival on the 23rd. 35,000 people tore the place apart, and they have asked us to play again on the 24th. So on that festival was like the Grateful Dead, Jose Feliciano, Black Sabbath, Traffic, Ginger Baker's Air Force, Tony Joe White, loads of really big names, and we blew them all off the stage. And In the Summertime went straight into the charts at number 13. Went to did this TV program called Disco 2, which was the forerunner of the old Grey Whistle Test on a Sunday night, hosted by the late Tommy Vance. On that show, there was on that program, it was The Who, Jimi Hendrix, Richie Havens, Quintessence, but they weren't all in the studio. But they were all on that show, and we did the rehearsals, and then we went off and had whatever we were doing, have a drink or something, and then we had to go back in ready to do the actual take. So we got into this lift, and this lady, she said, "Come on, you can get another person in here." So I think there was 13 of us in the lift, and the lift took off, and then we got stuck. So we got stuck in the lift at Shepherd's Bush for about 20 minutes, and we made it for the TV thing. Everyone was looking for us, so luckily we moved. But I don't know if you're familiar with Tony Hancock.
Yes, I am.
Hancock's half an hour, but
Hancock.
I think that could have been the lift. There was one of the episodes was Tony Hancock was stuck in the lift, and it seemed always suspiciously like the same lift. But anyway, in 1970, we went to America, and driving along, we stopped off for something to eat in a diner. I went into this diner in the late afternoon, and there was a girl in there, a topless dancer, would you believe, in a diner, dancing to Mighty Man.
Okay.
And I thought, wow, I've made it now. I really made it. Like, they're dancing to my song. Topless dancer in the late afternoon in an American diner. You know, how much bigger can you get? And then, and it wasn't until I thought I made it as a rock star in inverted commas when I did a gig in Manchester, and this girl asked me to sign her breasts. And I thought, now I really made it now. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle that, I must say. That wasn't much. I said that wrong, actually. But anyway, change the subject.
You entered at number 13, I believe, and In the Summertime was a worldwide hit, number one all over the world, but it didn't just stop there.
The thing was, I was still working in the research laboratory at Timex.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I had to ask my boss for the afternoon off work to do Top of the Pops.
Brilliant.
But then when it went to number one, I thought, oh well, I don't know what I'm going to do here. So I had to leave. It was a bit of for me. It was like going to the moon. I didn't know where I was. Look, I was very naive. I'd never been out of the country before. I think the furthest I've ever been was like Sheffield on a school trip.
Well, you say going to the moon, but of course you followed it straight up the charts with another number one with Baby Jump. So maybe you're on Saturn for that one, maybe.
Yeah,
that was pretty good. Another number one.
Because that was a good move by Barry Murray, the producer, to choose something that was 100% different to In the Summertime. Some people say now, retrospectively, that Baby Jump was the first UK number one punk record because it's so wild. I mean, it don't really get any radio play because I think it is so wild. Even though it's got no drums on it, it's just so wild.
It will do
today. The great thing about that, there was a really brilliant movie that was... I think it won some awards apart from being nominated. It's called The Crying Game. And the opening sequence is set in a fairground, and they played the whole of Baby Jump in its entirety, which is well over 3.5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes 40 or whatever. And so I thought that was great to have that, in a movie.
Absolutely, and it was a great movie.
It stands up now, and Dr. Feelgood actually did a cover version of it. It was just quite a good version.
Cool. Now, if I can ask you, Sue will have a question in a second, but if I can ask you, now, soon after In the Summertime came out, very soon after, the Mixtures came out with the Push Bike song, and it sounded like they were totally and utterly copying you. How did you feel when that came out?
Yeah, they did. They were an Australian band, and what happened with them is they covered In the Summertime in Australia, and they went to number one with it in Australia as well.
Okay.
And they got an award for it. And the thing was, they did the Push Bike song. The Mixtures, they came out of that
72, was it, or something?
I think they're called the Albert Brothers, are they? Which is like the AC/DC family, the publishers and what. They're all, so they got a good connection with publishers and songwriters. So then they came out with a Push Bike song, and then they never got to number one. But so they were number two, I think, and I think My Sweet Lord was number one. But Baby Jump knocked My Sweet Lord off at the number one spot. But Baby Jump got knocked off of the number one spot by Paul McCartney, who did a record called It's Another Day. Another Day or Another Day or something. And then several years later, it must have been at least 10 years later, maybe longer, might have been 15, I don't know. People just wouldn't say, they say, come on, if I did a show, come on, play the Push Bike song. I never recorded it, I don't know it. Yes, you did, come on, do it. So in the end, I got fed up, so I decided to record it in my home studio. And I got this bicycle from my daughter's bike and rang the bell on it and stuff, and I made it a bit like the Mixtures version. But funny enough, one of my fans in America made a video of it, put it on YouTube. It's had more hits than the original Mixtures version now.
And I should think so too. Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
So, and I think it's on Spotify as well, so... I'm not saying I get paid for it, but it's out there.
Brilliant. Ray, now, I don't know how you feel about people inviting you onto their radio shows and asking you to sing a burst of one of your songs, and feel free to say no, but Sue would like to ask you a question.
Oh, yeah, go on then.
Ray, my favourite song is In the Summertime. Please, could I ask you to sing a little bit to it for me, please?
What song do you want me to sing?
Bit of In the Summertime, she said, yeah? Yeah?
Yeah.
A bit of In the Summertime. I'll only sing it if you give me some accompaniment. So someone's got to do the between the two of you.
It's got to be... I'll give it a go. After three. 3, 2, 1.
In the summertime when the weather is high, you just right up and touch the sky when the weather is right. You got women on your mind. Have a drink, have a drive, go out and see what you can find.
Come on, Sue. Perfect. Perfect.
I know I've had a few different people in my band, but I don't know whether to say you guys are the best or the worst. You know, but
I will confess that I didn't sing any of that. Nick did, but I loved it.
Tell you what, Ray, I've got good contacts.
You must have done a good job. If you'd have said what to sing, I would have said, you know, I wrote the song "Feels Like I'm in Love."
Yes.
For Elvis Presley, and that was #1 for Kelly Marie. They say it was the first UK high energy disco version, disco record. But I do this sing along in the coffee bar version, like sha la 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 la, sha la 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 la. My head is in a spin, my feet don't touch the ground.
I like that actually.
Because to me, my head goes round and round. My knees are shaking, baby. My heart it beats like a drum. Sha la 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 la. And it feels like I'm in love. Right, that's for all the family, you know. Cool. Hands in the air, swing left and right, and sha la 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 la. Take you back to the 50s in the coffee bar.
I tell you something about Feels Like I'm in Love. Yep, she did a great job of it, and I'll tell you something. You got yourself the top-selling single of 1980. You knew that, didn't you? I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, I wrote it for Elvis. He died in 1977.
Yeah.
And just got the song ready and recorded. Bang, he was gone. What a shame. But
absolutely. Ray, can I just interrupt? Now we're going to have a bit of a problem here. Sue is live at 8 o'clock.
I'm not bothered about my show. Sorry.
All right, we go over. But this interview's going really well.
I'll shut up now. And
no, not at all. What I was going to say is, if we cut off between.
Can I just say something, Ray? You're more important than my show at the moment. I'm sorry. I'm going to be.
We go on a few minutes late. What I was saying, Ray, I can really polish this up, and I'm happy if Sue is to make this a 1 hour, a whole show.
Yeah, I do. I agree.
So we get your new stuff in. If you said you were busy with Mike Reid tomorrow, but I mean, if you're all right, say 7, 8 o'clock, just to finish it off for another, we will do.
What, tomorrow night?
Yeah, we'll do another 5 minutes now, Ray.
Have I got an email address from you?
You have.
Send me an email where we can send you some links of.
Perfect.
Give you a preview of some of the new stuff.
Yeah, because that's really important. And what's going to happen is we're not going to cut. So we will do a whole 2 hour show, and it is. Trust me, when it's done, it is polished. We wouldn't have 62. We wouldn't have 62 stations otherwise.
I'm probably going a bit mad here, so.
I love it, Ray.
Yeah, send me. Yeah, drop me an email.
Yeah,
he's doing that right now.
And I'll get some links sent to you, MP3s of. Perfect. Some of the new stuff, like "Less the Colour of Love" and Perfect. What else, and like the sing-along version of "In the Summer" of "Feels Like I'm in Love" or whatever. Yeah. You're going to play another version of it or anything you like. So "Lady Rose," you've got some of that stuff to do, haven't you? So
absolutely. So what I'm thinking, Ray, is if we try 7 o'clock tomorrow night, but if you're busy with Mike Reid, you just text me another time.
No, I'm doing Mike Reid in the afternoon.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm just doing. It's going to Raymond Dorset. It's what we made the arrangements with. So it's Raymond Dorset at AOL.com. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Because I'll tell you why you're giving us such good value for money, Ray. Not only that, one of these stations is in Germany, English speaking.
Right.
And do you know what? It got the show got 300,000 people 2 Saturdays ago. It's on the old British Forces network. It's got on those frequencies. So
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, because I've got
This
PR
is-
going on in Germany at the moment.
Even better.
All the magazines and stuff.
even better. So shall we stop? Shall we just make